This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There he is. The man, the myth, the legend. That is Matt Verderame. How you feeling, baby? You feeling good?
I'm feeling good. How are you feeling?
Very good. Interesting challenge coming up. I don't know if you were listening to my diatribe there at the end.
Yes.
Mike McDaniel, I think, is the guy that's on the on not a hot seat or anything like that, but the microscope is what I would put. Unfortunately, because he's become very Tyreek dependent and lacks creativity. And one of the things is he's a great play designer. But I as a head coach, I watch Eric Spoelstra. That's what I see Jim Larinaga do in basketball here. That's what I saw Pat Riley do. Certain coaches, that's where I test you, that you're missing certain guys and you've got to replace them and you've got to call games and you've got to be more creative. To me, that's the next test. He doesn't win challenges. He's too dependent on Tyreek Hill. He refuses to stay. Dude, the Dolphins are the number one rushing team in the NFL. Most yards, number one in per carry average, and they're 13th in attempts. Try to tell Baltimore those two stats, and you tell me if they're going to be 13th in attempts. Try to tell that to the Titans. Last year, both Mostert and Wilson averaged 4.5 and 4.6 carries per game, and you know where we were in attempts? Dead last in the NFL. This guy does not understand that the best friend of an offense and a quarterback is the run game. And his offensive linemen on Monday night could not pass block, but they were averaging for the game 5.1 yards per carry, and in the first half, 6.7. Mike McDaniel has problems making decisions and scheming without Tyreek Hill.
I agree with a lot of it. I know obviously I was going to do this morning and we were going to talk. And my thought was essentially that my number one thought was, I don't know why they don't run the ball more. So I agree with you there. And McDaniel, look, my one criticism of the Dolphins consistently this year has been, if you can get them to not play the way they want to play, it's a problem. Like they don't, like, kind of use another, they don't have a left hand. They just don't. Like
No, wait a minute. They do.
Well, but
run
they
the
don't
goddamn ball.
But they
run
don't
the goddamn ball.
But they don't, because they don't go to it. So it doesn't matter, right? It's like when Chiefs fans say to me, "Well, if they just stop dropping the ball." The problem is they can't stop dropping the ball, right? Like at some point you are. The Dolphins can run the ball, but when they get in the moments that demands they have patience with it, they don't do it. No. So that you're right, like they can do it, but they don't. The only thing I would disagree on a little bit in that game is Tua's just got to play better. I'm sorry. Like I know Tyreek's hurt for part of that game. I know the offensive line is Swiss cheese right now. I get it. Armstead wasn't playing. Center's out for the year. I get all that. Tua at the end of this season, if they extend him, it's going to be $50 million a year. Like that's what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
If you're a $50 million a year player, you got to beat the Tennessee Titans. I don't care. Like you've got to figure out a way to get a field goal at the end of that football game.
Well, they did, but there was a fumble on the ground, and then they did, but they blocked the field goal. But they did. He threw a beautiful bomb to Achan, and Achan slowed down, and the bomb would have been more points. That's fine. That's three times that there were points on the board. And
well, he fumbled the ball in the red zone.
No, that was Eichenberg that fumbled it because he did not hike it right. That fumble was on Eichenberg, not on Tua. Go look at it. It was a short snap, and that's why he couldn't get a hold of the ball because he snapped it to his crotch, not past his crotch.
Fine.
And so then right there, you couldn't get a hand on the ball, and then the rest was history, and you gave up at least a field goal there. You know what I'm saying?
That's
at
fine.
least a field. And then you had another blocked field goal. You had another blocked field goal, and then Tua did make the perfect throw to Achan, but the
did.
kid slows down, and then that's it. It was over.
I agree with the HN.
Dude, it reminded me a lot of Kansas City. There was only a couple plays to be made. And look, Tua played like shit. I'm not going to give him any excuses on it, but
It wasn't good.
there were plays there that should have been made, and they should have won the game. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. First of all, look, we can the fumble in the red zone. At the end of the day, they ended up getting it back because Levis throws a pick six anyway. But regardless, if he's an elite quarterback, and listen, I have come on this show for the last 2 years every week. I have said I think Tua gets a lot more crap than he deserves. Yeah. On Monday night, he's got to take them down the field at the end of that game. I'm sorry. You're playing against a Titans team that has no secondary, that doesn't have Jeffrey Simmons. I don't care. Like, Tyreek Hill being out stinks, and that's frustrating. But like, you're better than that team 100 times out of 100, even without Tyreek Hill on the field.
I agree.
Now,
I totally agree.
To be clear, do I think Tua is the main reason they lost? Absolutely not. I thought McDaniel was terrible in that game. And defensively, how do you give up 15 points to that team in 2 minutes?
That's where Fangio didn't blitz the young kid. They
just sat back and let him just throw the ball. And the one thing that, look, and Fangio, this is part of his defense, and I'm a big Fangio guy, so I'm not killing Vic Fangio, but in that game specifically, Hopkins is the only guy who can beat you. The only guy. I mean, they have no other receiver you even remotely care about. Travel Ramsey with him. Like, put him in man. The Titans, the whole game, were like, we're going to run away from him because nobody else. And by the way, Xavier Howard, when he was in man a few times, did fine. But the Dolphins sat in the zone, and they just said, okay, great. We're going to run everybody away from Jalen Ramsey. Why the Dolphins didn't just say, you know what, I know it's not what we do typically, but we're just going to get in man, and we're going to take this guy out of the game, because if Westbrook Akine can beat us, go nuts. But they didn't do it. That is a failure of both coaching and of execution defensively. But in the end, I don't think Tua is the main reason. I think it all conspired. Bad coaching, bad defense, Tua not playing well enough, a couple of injuries, and here you are, 28-27.
And the worst part about it is Fangio's defense was fantastic. They scored a touchdown. They gave him 2 short fields for 2 more scores, right, on top of all of that. Yes. It was just the final 2 drives. I don't know why he brain farted and said, no, let's just play prevent defense and let's let Will Levis pick us apart all the way downfield. That part I didn't understand. He ruined a beautiful performance. McDaniel sucked. He was terrible the whole game.
He was not good. I totally agree.
Fangio really only brain farted the last 2 drives. Outside of that, the defense was fantastic. Outside of that, it was the weirdest thing, dude. It was just a bad game, but you know what? Now all the pressure falls on them. They better get that crap corrected and start winning games here and start beating the Jets, because if not, it's going to be a really long offseason for this team if they have the kind of finish that they had last year when, things went completely awry.
I think they're going to beat the Jets. I
do too.
I would be shocked if they lost to the Jets. The question for me is with the Dolphins, what happens the last 3 weeks of the year? Because that is about as hard of a stretch. I mean, look, Buffalo's going to be playing for its life in Week 18. And, the Cowboys right now are playing as good as anybody. And in Baltimore.
Okay.
But,
there we go. Now you're back. Repeat. Start again.
Sure. That last 3-game stretch is going to tell you everything you need to know. I mean, Dallas is playing as well as anybody. Baltimore, that's a road game and a tough place to play. And Buffalo might be playing for its life Week 18. So that's going to determine a lot with Miami. I mean, look, if the Bills win on Sunday against Dallas, which I don't think they will, but they could. If they win that game, they're going to beat Easton Stick and Bailey Zappi. Like, they're going to win those games. And I know they've made a habit all year of losing to teams like that. I get it. At this time of year, I'd be shocked. So if they beat Dallas, they're probably going to be 10-6 going into Miami. If Miami gives them an opportunity to come out with that game and have a tie, guess what? You'll lose a tiebreaker to them if you lose that. So, like, the Dolphins, you got to win a couple of games here before you get to Buffalo. And if they do, they're fine. But you got to win, I would say, 2 of their next 3 at a minimum. I mean, that's probably where you're at. That's not going to be easy. They should kill the Jets. But it's those last 3 games that are going to really tell quite a bit.
For sure. I say you better win 2 of those 3 at least. At least. If they go 2-2 down the stretch, I'm not going to feel good about the team going into the playoffs. They need to go 3-1 here. Beat the Jets, obviously, and then win 2 of those 3 difficult games. Now that you lost all the other ones, you need to win at least 2 of those 3, down the stretch and feel good. I just hope that McDaniel wakes up and starts to make better decisions, as a head coach. The guy can't win a challenge, doesn't use the running game. I mean, he does some stuff that just is baffling at times, and he's a really smart guy. That's the part that's kind of crazy, that a guy this smart makes that many boneheaded mistakes out there. It's just kind of nuts. All right, so what do you think about the Tom Curran report that Belichick is out and the decision? Well, it's kind of a report that I cover my ass. He's out, but there could be a chance he comes back if he runs the table and and finishes 5-game win. We look at it.
I mean, look, I think the report is from a very good reporter, but it's also pretty obvious stuff, right? I mean, like he's not coming back. I mean, and they're not running the table. I mean, the Chiefs, despite all their nonsense, are not going to Foxborough and losing that game. So I mean, look, they're going to finish. Whatever. I don't even know what New England's schedule is. I know they got the Chiefs. They've got they don't actually. I do know what it is. It's Kansas City, Buffalo. They're at Denver, and they play the Jets. They're maybe winning 1 game. Okay, so. They're going to
Happy is not going to burn the Chiefs all over the place.
I mean, Josh Allen was throwing for 5.5 yards an attempt and running for his life all night, and they won because the Chiefs are the Chiefs and can't stop beating themselves. But I mean, I do not think that Bailey Zappi's lighting up Kansas City's defense. No, I do not. I think if New England hits double digits, they should be thrilled to death. So listen, they're going to finish, 4-13. Let's just say, yeah, Belichick. I mean, it's funny. We've talked about it from one angle the whole year, right? Like, are they going to fire Belichick? Would Belichick want to go back to that? Like, even if Robert Kraft came up to Bill Belichick and was like, Bill, we love you. We love to have you back. Is Bill Belichick signing up for another year of that? I mean, everybody keeps talking about how they're going to get this quarterback. Okay, great. Bill's 72 years old. He's going to coach till he's 80. I mean, I think if you're Belichick, either ride off into the sunset or you go somewhere where you really think like, hey, look, I got a guy I can win with right now. I mean, you're not, it's not like think about Brady, okay? So Brady leaves New England. He went to a team he thought could win right then and there. He didn't go to some team that was going to be a 5-year reclamation project.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's the same thing for Belichick at this point. If you're Belichick, you're not going to some team that you're like, yeah, maybe we can win 7 games. Now, everybody in the league, the words, the murmur you hear is Washington. Okay.
They're maybe not close.
And that's my thing. It's like, I get it. Like, he's from that area, but like, okay, like, what is he going to do with that team? What are they going to finish 3rd in the division? Where are they going? The Chargers are interesting because of Herbert, but they're another one. It's like, they're not winning that division. They're not better than Kansas. They're not gonna jump 8 teams in the AFC all of a sudden, and they're gonna lose 1 million guys after this year. But Herbert, at least go, a quarterback. Okay, look, it's the bottom line is in New England. It's over. It's over. I mean, I would be very surprised if he comes back, and I'd also be shocked if they win more than 1 game the rest of the year.
Yeah, what I'm going to be like the Washington thing, like you've got a new owner and you want to turn a new page. You're going to bring an old fart like that now at this point where he's over the hill. That would make no sense whatsoever. I'm just going to laugh at somebody that actually does give him a chance because I think it's going to be a disaster. I really am. And I wonder how much this stains his legacy too, because it's just not a good look. This is it's kind of what I've been talking about with Mike McDaniel. It's like, yo, dude, you show me your offense is pretty cool with Tyreek, but then with no Tyreek, you can't show me you can't coach. You can't. because that's kind of coaching. You're going to turn over rosters. You're going to have different players. And if you're a good coach, you're Andy Reid, bro, you're going to have a great offense no matter who your people are. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it is. And we expect that with Andy Reid. And so I'm kind of like, what you got to, you want to give this guy an opportunity. What tells you that he's going to turn the corner and do something, because he never did anything outside of Brady. It's just a terrible look for him. So how much does this hurt his legacy in the long run?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think in the end, look, you're going to look back at his career and say, he won 6 Super Bowls. I mean, it's really hard to overlook the fact that I don't care who his quarterback
Okay.
was. I mean,
is he still the GOAT in your eyes?
For me, he was never the GOAT. I always thought it was either Vince Lombardi or Paul Brown. But I think that he's still on the Mount Rushmore of coaches for me. Yeah. I mean, he won 6 Super Bowls. Like I know he won it all. Brady. Well, Walsh won them all with Montana. I mean, Lombardi won them all at Starr. Noel won them all at Bradshaw, right? Like, and by the way, Noel coached for a long damn time after Bradshaw. How'd that go? Like, they were good sometimes. Never went back to a Super Bowl, So
but you win with different teams. You have certain Shula. You did get to the Super Bowl with Unitas. You got to the Super Bowl and won it with Greasy. You got to the Super Bowl with Woodstock, and you got to the Super Bowl with Marino. So you proved that with 4 different styles of quarterbacks, you could have some major success.
Yeah.
You didn't win them all, but you had major success, which that says a lot. That's something that Belichick never did, never was able to have success with anyone else, actually.
Right.
I
don't disagree with you. I think if you're asking me what his legacy is going to be 50 years from now, I think people will go, "My God, the guy won 6 Super Bowls." I mean, I think that's his legacy. I think in the end,
that for sure, yes.
I mean, that I think. Now, you want to sit there and argue, "Hey, look, Brady basically, was the main reason they won all those Super Bowls." I'm not going to argue that. I would say this though. I will say this because I was old enough to watch all these and remember them. That first dynasty, Brady was much more of a caretaker than he was like the driving force of that team.
Yes.
Belichick defensively those years, they were ridiculous. I mean, that defense was the reason they won those Super Bowls.
Yeah,
so the second time around was much more about Brady and Edelman and Gronk. But like that first time, that team, to me, Belichick deserves a lot of credit, especially for those first 3, where they had, I mean, Brady was good, but Brady wasn't what he became, which was just great all-time player. Brady was good. He was efficient, but that defense was spectacular, and that was all because of Belichick.
Well, I think he picked it up in the second Super Bowl and on. The first one, I agree with you. He was like Ben Roethlisberger was in the first Super Bowl. The second Super Bowl, I thought Brady was a stud, just like Ben Roethlisberger was in the second Super Bowl. He was a monster. He made some throws that were just absolutely sick. So I'm with you there. All I'm saying is he was given that GOAT label. I think that GOAT label is now, while he wasn't your GOAT, he was many people's GOAT.
That's fair.
I think a lot of people now are going to say, if we have to measure it and start looking around, no, we got to go with guys that show me some versatility, that have done it with different teams and different quarterbacks and different eras and things like that. And I think those kind of coaches are the ones that are going to end up standing out, whether it's, Joe Gibbs or Shula or whatever, guys like that did have. And by the way, even with Bill Walsh, I'll say this. I know he won it with one guy, right? But he's the guy that made the Steve Young move. And he's the guy that brought Seifert in. And he basically did a Jimmy Johnson / Switzer, where he kind of left that team in place for this guy, and they won the title. And then the thing went apart because it was like watching Riley leave the Knicks. The culture of the Knicks lasted for a little bit, but eventually it ran its course, and Van Gundy and everything dried out because what Riley set in place only lasted for so long because Riley wasn't kept around. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of one of those things that the Bill Walsh, product was left there like Jimmy Johnson, and you took advantage of it for a year and won a championship. So it's kind of, that Seaford championship. I kind of give it to Bill Walsh in a way. I'm just saying.
Well, I think a lot of people do. That team, listen, that team, that 89 team. I mean, you ever want to go back and look at a team that absolutely destroyed everybody they played? I mean, the 89 playoffs, they beat Minnesota with the best defensive football year. I mean, I'm not going to be 100% right. It was like 42-10 or something, and then they beat the Rams 30-3, and then went to the Super Bowl and won 55-10.
Yeah,
I mean that's like playing a bunch of college teams.
I know.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. They beat 3 teams in the playoffs that badly. I mean,
those teams were so complete, dude. Offensively and defensively, they were so loaded. Those Niners teams. Man.
Because of Montana and Rice, people don't even realize, and a lot of people don't realize, like, they had Roger Craig and Tom Rathman and John Taylor and Brent Jones. And then defensively, that team had Charles Haley. They traded away Charles Haley. They're like, we don't need him. I mean, they Bill Romanowski and those teams, obviously a lot, guys like that, Keenan Turner, they were
loaded, bro.
You could make a real argument that those teams in that latter version of the Niners, that they're the greatest teams of all time.
They could be, for sure. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, listen, somebody wants to tell me the Steelers of the 70s. I have no problem with that. You want to tell me the Niners. I have the Dallas Cowboys of the mid-90s. I mean, it's so subjective. It's hard, but it's you can't tell anybody that tells you those Niners are the best teams ever. You can't tell them that, oh, no, you're out of your mind. No, they have a case. Right. They have a case. They can make a case.
I mean, your backup quarterback, Steve Young.
Yeah. It's just it's just stupid that team was so loaded. Bill Walsh was so ahead of his time, and that's because he learned from the best in Paul Brown. And those kind of things. It's the kind of stuff that you can't replace. Hey, no Hard Knocks yet for you?
Not yet. It's a busy time of the year. Hard Knocks is a lot easier to watch in August.
Okay, so let me ask you you're right about that, because I couldn't keep up with the Colts one because it was in the middle of the season.
It's hard.
So I had to watch it after in the off season. Question for you, Cam Newton. When you're inaccurate and can't hit the ocean, are you really in any position to talk about any quarterback in the league? I'm just wondering. I get that everybody leans, well, he won the MVP. I get it, bro. He was a running quarterback, and it was fantastic and all that. But the real problem with Cam Newton was he couldn't hit the side of a barn. So for him to be talking about what a franchise or a game manager is or all that, I just found it kind of humorous. So your thoughts on all of that?
It's the same thought I have when I see guys like LaShawn McCoy rip on like former teams and teams he played. What are we doing? I mean, you just listen. You had a great career. Be happy for the career you had. Don't spend time ripping. I mean, look, as somebody who grew up rooting for the Chiefs, my all-time favorite was when Orlando Scandrick retired. Orlando Scandrick did more harm to the Chiefs in one season than any player I think has ever done in one season. I mean, he looked like me trying to cover people, and yet went on. I forget what channel it was, Fox or whatever it was, and would just relentlessly rip them like every time they lost a game. And then that year they win the Super Bowl in 2019. And it was just, you were like, are you serious with this? Like you almost by yourself gave up 4,000 yards passing, and like you're going to go on TV every day and talk about the failures of Andy Reid. It's just a joke. Like it was just staggering. Like Cam Newton had a great career, won MVP, went to a Super Bowl. That's fine. It was fun to watch for a long time. But I mean, is Cam Newton going to the Hall of Fame? No. He was a good player who had an incredible year. Yes, but at the end, I don't need Cam Newton or really anybody ripping on quarterbacks now. Like it's just a bad look.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Is it hands down that Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes are the best commercials in the NFL?
They're pretty good. I'll tell you right now, the team's better commercials than they are playing offense.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Right now,
I tell you, if they could get their they could get their success of commercials to translate to catching the ball on third down, they'd be in really good shape, or lining up correctly. I've never seen a group of people whine so much about a call that was blatantly obvious.
Oh yeah, that's weak sauce on Mahomes' part.
Incredibly. And you know what?
That was
To
terribly weak
me,
on his part.
from
He needs
someone
to
who's pretty
shut up.
close to that whole thing, the Reed part of it was worse than the Mahomes part of it. I know that with Mahomes, like, he's going to get crushed for being, a whiner, and that's fine. By the way, like, he deserves to be.
He deserves
it's
to
a
get
bad
criticized.
look.
Yeah.
I would say to people, though, in genuineness, like, that was 95% of that was just being infuriated with his own team, and it just ended up coming out of the official. They can't do it. You can't do it. Whining about it to Allen, which you apologize for it. You can't do it. My bigger thing is, like, Andy Reid after the game. Andy, stop blaming the officials. Like, your receivers lined up a yard in front of the ball. I mean, and you know what? I've seen a lot of people. What happens in game? It does happen. In fact, there's a lot of people pointed out. Jalen Waddle actually did on Monday night. He lined up in the neutral zone. It wasn't called.
Yes.
But like, you know what? I liken it to speeding. Okay, if I speed down the highway 25 times, I'm going to get away with it a bunch of times.
Right.
And you know what? I'm going to get ticketed. And you can't sit there and go, well, why did I get ticketed this time for going 90 and a 70? Because I went 90 and a 70 every day this week and I didn't get ticketed. Well, you know how you don't get a ticket? You stop going 90 and a 70. That's how you stop doing it. So, listen, the commercials are funny. The offense, depending on your perspective, also funny. Or very not funny, depending on who you are looking at them.
I got to tell you something. The part that I'm sure does not go unnoticed in the Chiefs locker room, and maybe even Mahomes, because maybe that tirade was also indirectly kind of telling Tony, yo, bro, stop already. Look, I'm going to make an ass out of myself to defend you. And in the end, we have to point the finger, and I'll point at myself, because I was a big Tony guy at the draft, because I loved him coming out of Florida. I thought he had all the talent in the world. I know maturity has been an issue, and it continues to be an issue.
Yep. Still is.
He is not a professional. And in the end, whether it's the drop passes, the mistakes, whatever it is, dude,
right,
the guy is a constant fuck up, okay? And that's what he is. He's a constant fuck up. And he's got to stop being a constant fuck up and learn how to be a professional. That's the real problem out of all of this. They made a trade for a guy that I love his talent too. And they probably love his talent. And we all know that if he actually screwed his head on right, he would easily be the best receiver on that team. And yet somehow or another, Tony just doesn't grow up and doesn't stay focused. It wasn't the ref. It's not Andy. It's not Pat. It's not anything. Brother, the biggest problem with the Chiefs offense is that Tony doesn't wake the hell up, because if he did, you guys are Super Bowl winners again.
Well, I think it's a few things. I don't disagree with anything said about Kadarius Toney. He's directly cost them 2 football games at this point. Directly. Christ. Now, they are top 5 in turnovers. The offensive line has taken more penalties than any other offensive line in football, and they lead the league in drops. I mean, you want to talk about a team that just self-destructs over and over and over. It's incredible. When they play their best, you could make an argument it's the best team they've had. Really, because of the defense. The defense is insane. Yes. But they just beat themselves. Look, Mahomes is to a point, and I'm not going to defend this. I mean, you can't go up there and just yell about the officials making the correct call. At the same point, I can tell you right now, that was not about the officials. That was a season's worth of frustration. He's pissed off with the receivers. He's pissed off with the offensive line, their penalties. He's pissed off. I mean, look, it's my job to watch the tape of these teams. I can't tell you how many times you watch them. We're talking over 50 times this year. They run the wrong route. They have no idea where they're supposed to go.
Imagine being Pat Mahomes and you can't trust any of your receivers.
Right.
Brother, that's a difficult job, because you're almost second-guessing every throw you're making. Will this guy catch it? Will this guy catch it? Back in the day, Marino, you dropped a pass or two, and he was like, yo, bro, like Shula, don't even bother sending him in, because I ain't going to throw to him anymore. And it's almost, and he can't do that, because then he would have no receivers left. I mean, Rashee Rice is like the only guy, right, that's somewhat reliable, right? That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, the hardest thing, like I was saying, is, I mean, they can't run the right route. I mean, it happens over and over and over and over. And I think that's a big part of the reason that they're so tentative offensively. Like, he can't throw with any anticipation because he doesn't know if they're going to do the right thing with their routes. I mean, there was a drive in that game. It was either the second or third drive against Buffalo. He threw a ball perfect. I mean, a gorgeous throw, 25 yards downfield between double coverage to Richie James, drops it right in his hand.
I know.
Then they convert, third down. First down, they run the ball. They get 2. Second and 8, he throws to Kadarius Toney on the sideline. Guys, as wide open as the day is long, drops it right in his hands. Third down, MVS is wide open at the 10-yard line if he just sits down in the zone. Mahomes guns it to that zone. MVS just runs clear through it. I mean, this is stuff, if you watch them every week, they do this every week. I mean, a minimum of half dozen plays a game where they have no idea where they're going. The only saving grace for them is the defense, is Kelsey and Rashee Rice, who's been a revelation for him. He's the only receiver that's worth anything. And even he fumbles the ball and drops the ball, but at least he does something when he has it. But they are a mess offensively at the moment, that's for sure.
What do you got going on Sports Illustrated?
Film studies out today. Quarterback rankings out tomorrow. A matchup to watch for every single game is out Friday. I have my running column on Sunday that breaks down every game as they're happening, which actually is going to start Saturday this week, just 3 games. So that'll be up all weekend on SI.com. You can check that out. I'll retweet it. So there's plenty. There's plenty. I'll have playoff picture stuff. I'll have stuff on rookies who are doing well and not doing so hot. Same with the MVP race. I'm handicapping that every week. So there's plenty to read if you'd like to check it all out.
As always, I appreciate your time, my brother. Follow him on Twitter out there at Matt Verderame and catch his exceptional work there at Sports Illustrated. We will catch up next week, my friend. Enjoy the football.
Hey, take care.
You got it. There you go. Matt Verderame coming through, baby. We love him.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.